Well, all this talk about Antarctica, all of the sudden, as the webbot predicted, I have to do a video on this now. I believe we have a webbot hit. Now, there's certain things that I did talk about these weird glaciers forming in places where they don't belong and some floating off to places they've never been to, things like that as far as glaciers go. But I went and searched back a year's worth of webbot reports, and for you to understand, these come out about once a month, pretty much every month. Every great once in a while, he might skip a month because he's just, Cliff High's busy or something came up. But for the most part, I've got a webbot report every month, and I went back a year on this. And I just searched for the word Antarctica or pole, as in South Pole, or just Arctic or Arctica, whatever. And the last two reports, November and December, and then actually back in May it was mentioned. And now, today's the 12th, the webbot report came out the very beginning of December. And then, of course, we also have November, over a month ago. The lost city of Antarctica. This is from the dailystar.co.uk. It's kind of a major site over there. The lost city of Antarctica. Shock claims massive civilization exists beneath a mile of ice. Antarctica is hiding a huge city underneath more than a mile of ice, according to incredible claims. Now keep in mind, webbot doesn't differentiate between claims and the real thing. It just knows in the future this is going to be talked about as if it's real. Doesn't mean it's real. It's going to be talked about as if it's real. And since it makes more sense that if something's talked about like that, like it's real, chances are it's probably real. That's why they're talking about it. But not always. But that is why Cliff High will make a prediction via his webbot report to say Antarctica. Lots of stuff on that. A lot of things going to be coming out in the future about Antarctica. And I'm about to read a bunch of this stuff to you right out of the webbot reports. And by the way, you may be getting a bonus thrown at you right now because I don't know that I covered hardly anything, if anything, in my webbot summaries on this particular keyword, Antarctica, even though it is, in fact, in these reports. Like I say, I've only got 30 minutes to do the summaries. Not, only 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a long time. But I could spend an hour and a half probably reading, an hour and a half reading these things to you if I was to read the whole thing. I can't do that. Again, that's Cliff High's work, So, let me read you this article, and then I'm going to bust open 3 of these webbot reports, and I'm going to find those keywords and read you specifically what it's saying. And you should be pretty amazed when you see how many times the word Antarctica comes up versus the other reports, previous reports, going back at least a year, that don't even have the word at all. Okay? The icy mass, measuring over 14 million kilometers squared, has long been a source of great mystery and was the last continent of the world to be discovered. But its freezing temperatures and barren landscape have stopped people from ever attempting to colonize it. So has remained virtually untouched over the years. I want to remind you all, John Kerry just went over there, a little field trip he took himself to. And then we had 2 astronauts going down there. One got sick or something. The other one came back, died recently, whatever the hell that was. There clearly is something going on down there for these people, the former Secretary of State, or wait a minute, former. He's still, stand by. Secretary of State. He's still Secretary of State. We'll be clear. Still John Kerry? Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm already thinking, Google. Google. I just got played. I got a browser open. Google wants to know your location. Allow or block? So, monkey mind. Ooh, Google. Ooh, squirrel. So, Yeah, John Kerry. I'm thinking of Trump, his new pick. He wants to have Exxon guy take over. Sorry about that. Anyways, however, this may not actually be the case. Incredible. A lost city hidden underneath sheets of ice would be an astounding find. A scientific theory known as crustal displacement means that thousands of years ago, the icy tundra may have been home to an ancient and mysterious civilization. Now, let me just say something else. Speaking of WebBot, and speaking of crustal displacement, how long ago was it that the WebBot reports were talking about this thing called crustal displacement and, as Cliff aptly named it, expandoplanet theory? But it takes crustal displacement to do that. So here we are reading an article now using that exact word that Cliff High had in his WebBot years ago. Scientific theory known as crustal displacement means that thousands of years ago, the icy tundra may have been home to an ancient and mysterious civilization. Professor Charles A. Hapgood, a history expert from the U.S., first published a paper in the 1950s that said movement in the Earth's crust meant that only 11,600 years ago, large parts of Antarctica were totally ice-free. He said evidence of this was in the 500-year-old Piri-Reis map, a world map drawn by the Ottoman admiral of the same name. A number of scholars who have examined the map claim it clearly shows the west coast of Africa, the south coast of South America, and the northern coast of Antarctica, but not covered in a sheet of ice. U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Harold Z. Ullmeyer sent a letter in 1960 to Professor Hapgood saying his theory on the Piri-Reis map was correct. He wrote, quote, "The geographical detail shown in the lower part of the map agrees very remarkably with the results of the seismic profile made across the top of the ice cap by the Swedish-British Antarctic expedition of 1949. This indicates the coastline had been mapped before it was covered by the ice cap. This part of Antarctica is ice-free. The ice cap in this region is now about a mile thick. Conspiracists now think Hapgood was right, and he discovered that much of the South Pole was ice-free, and also the location of the lost city of Atlantis. The existence of this mystical utopia was first mentioned in the writings by ancient Greek philosopher Plato. In 360 BC. The Atlantis that Plato described was founded by people who were half god and half human around 9,000 years before his own time. If it did exist, this would be a similar time that Professor Hapgood said shifts had occurred in the Earth's crust. Just a month ago, further proof of Antarctica Atlantis emerged in the form of pictures of what appears to be huge pyramids jutting out of its ice. And I'm going to click on that just to give you a little quickie view of that. I mean, do mountains look like that? That is a pyramid as pyramids come. And remember, here's the top view. These things could be massively older than what's in Egypt. And if that's the case, that would explain why it looks the way it does. And over off to the right, here's the Giza, one of the Giza pyramids. I mean, come on. So, all of a sudden, Antarctica is in the news. So, how about we start off with May, the May Alta Report 2016. Got my little notes, search for the word pole. The data sets for the sun disease are also forecasting that further erratic solar weather will be causing challenges here on Earth and other planets as the Terran weather shifts into visible wonkiness with snows in summer and heat waves at the poles and other demonstrations of never before reported strange weather phenomena. These weather phenomena will include more erratic ocean currents and increasing heat waves leading to large fish population deaths in near-shore waters, while also producing blinding fogs in the midday sun in areas outside of view of land. These midday evaporation fogs are also going to show up on satellite photos and cause some considerable discussion. So that's the very first time anything about the North Pole, South Pole stuff, which actually goes in line to what this article is saying, planet, crustal displacement, where there used to be, where there's ice now a mile thick, like he was saying, there didn't used to be, etc. So this is now coming out. People are talking about this, right in line with what the website said would be happening. So let's move on to November. We are going to search for Antarctica, if I could spell that right. Other earthquake events are to be occurring in Antarctica, of all places, as the data describes ice shelves that will peel off like crumbs from a layer cake. These earthquake events are also described as glacier quakes, and the descriptor sets include language around very large ice movements that can be continent shaping. These are apparently the predicted earthquakes that will rearrange the land such that a critical river will be draining into a new inland sea. This is forecast to cause all manner of chaos for USA POP as several nuclear plants become suddenly dry, as in no cooling water. Next part I can find, the very long-term data sets are gathering. So long-term data, this is out there ways, prediction way out there, okay? Long-term data sets are gathering anew around Antarctica in its future shape. This set for shape also includes its ice pack. In these sets, even though seemingly contradictory to other sets forecasting an ice age, the Antarctica ice pack is described as withering over the next 2 human generations. The data indicates that this will be visible to the human eye in only 6 or 7 years, but will take some number of years to progress, the greater distance being forecast. The data sets are describing a situation where ancient human habitation, including technology, will be exposed by the withering ice packs and create something of an archaeological for-profit boom at the newly exposed edges of the continent. The Antarctica data sets are describing a melting of the ice pack as well as a drifting off, yet the overall global impact is also being described as moving currents and altering wind patterns, but in general not swelling the oceans. This last is showing up as being due to so much rain being dumped back onto land, some places in the form of snow that will grow into its own ice pack, has already been forecast over these years. Next time I can find it. These other excessive snow in unusual places and snow frozen repeatedly into a big ice lump are all part of the larger sets of the developing ice age language that has long been in these reports. The new data sets are suggesting that in spite of the push for global warming efforts, the climate will not be cooperative over these next few decades, as we experience the coldest winter records in some number of years, albeit in very unusual places. Some of the places showing for really strange weather include Antarctica. The sets for the southern polar region are forecasting the climate shifts in this area to be pivotal for the planet's oceans. Further, the reports of odd weather occurrences in this region will be temporal markers for changes in other regions as the expansion effects alter Earth under our feet. Again, back to that article I read you a second ago, Earth expansion, etc. So that's it for the word Antarctica in November of this year reports. Now we're going to go to December, the most recent one. The appearance of Antarctica-associated datasets continues to grow unrestrained. In other words, Cliff High, is being flooded. The data is flooding in with this whole Antarctica thing from all over the place. Different sets and subsets basically flooding in. So we got a taste of it in November, then December rolls around and there's a ton of data. And you're going to see there's a bunch of that word in here, recurrences of it. The appearance of Antarctica associated datasets continues to grow unrestrained, not only in the Terra entity, where we are examining the sets for expansion of Earth forecast, but also in the global pop and most curiously the markets entity areas. The Antarctica sets within the Terra entity are forecasting very large changes for the southern continent. The data shows that Antarctica is going to grow lopsided over the southern hemisphere summer of 2016-2017. These sets are suggesting that the Earth changes within the planet that are expansion driven will be making an appearance over these next few, likely 2 months. These sets are forecasting a series of earthquakes that will be continent altering of Antarctica. The sets that had formed over 2006 and 7 for Antarctica expansion and underseas movement, part of the rising lands sets, are gaining large amounts of both shorter term and longer term sets that are building around a core of immediacy values for alteration by earthquake of the continent. These sets would have Antarctica be not like or no longer resemble itself due to changes in the landmass under the ice over these next few months until February. At that point, or at the point that model space has progressed into February, there are a large number of rising sets for housing problems and habitation emergencies for the residents of Antarctica. As the Earth expansion event or episode gets a larger bite on the continent, note that within the data, this is also spelled as a bite, B-I-G-H-T, which is interesting, which is a landform with an intrusion of ocean, so we may be getting a forecast of a new intrusion into the coastline of Antarctica as a result of the earthquakes episode coming up. Please note that other Antarctica sets are within the global pop, USA pop, and markets entities. Let me search some more. There has been a significant rise in the number of crosslinks from the Terra entity sets over to the Space Goats Farts entity. This rise is also has been accompanied by a similar rise in the number of crosslinks involving the powers that be entity and the Terra entity, or its cross-linked areas. In this case, a very large number of connections have formed between the powers that be entity and Space Ghost Farts entity around the idea of officially denied aspects of so-called climate change. These sets are cross-tied to sets with Antarctica as one of the geographic references. The preponderance of cross-links from Terra entity over to the Space Ghost Farts entity terminate in unknown or officialdom denied. However, there are some sets in this recent processing that terminate in security and space and include some hints about officialdom, lower levels, leaks to come in the new year, which will make our climate crisis even more strange and unbelievable than it is now. The larger number of geographic references for Antarctica in the Terra entity sets, including reinforcing new sets for the underseas activities that had been previously described as altering ocean current patterns due to land rise. The idea was in previous Alta reports that land's rising would cause obstructions for ocean currents. Now the sets have new supporting sets for land rise, not in the waters off Antarctica, but rather within the continent itself, such that its new coastline is what causes the ocean current alterations. Further, the land rise within Antarctica is indicated to cause undersea landslides, which will induce tsunami waves for South America and Australia. As model spaces progress through December, we barely get moving when we hit a belief-shattering obstacle. These sets are referencing a point of action that occurs that disrupts the general understanding or belief or point of view about the substantial. However, please note that there are many sets that accrue from this point onward as model space moves over December and into the new year that are bringing along Antarctica geographic references. Further, there are a number of sets that are growing in supporting positions within the death of organized religion. The Antarctica sets exempted The growth in the death of religion main supporting sets is all about corruption and organized, sanctioned, and sanctified pedophilia. See if I go to the next one. It could be that the data sets is forecasting that the Western officialdom has a desperate fear of the fracturing, crumbling, or dissolution of the money religion that they appear to have reason to think will occur over 2017. The idea coming up from all the entities is that events globally, including the Antarctica connection, are going to threaten the financialized world mindset and the control it allows the state over 2017. These sets are referencing disclosures that will be let out as though a balloon popping, in which earth changes and emerging physical evidence are thought to threaten existing belief systems. These threats are to be self-revealing over the next year to some degree that would appear to be known in advance by Western ruling elites, such that their expressed fears will soon be appearing in public records. The idea in these disclosures data sets are that as of this time unknown event is manifesting such that it shows humanity to be far older and far more complicated than we ever could have imagined. Let's scroll down to some new ones. In a section of data that is joining Ireland Pop, Franco Pop, and USA Pop, and I believe Franco Pop is France, and USA Pop, the data has forecasts of mysterious movements and rumors of unknown that will be Antarctica focused. That article I just read you fits perfectly in with what I just said here. These sets are indicating that some form of mystery is going to make it out into the wilds of the internet, with the data forecasting that some evidence of the mystery will be available and will be continuing to leak. As we have had a continuing and unexplained Antarctica sets appearing within the data from the very first runs in 1997, the curious nature of the appearance of the Antarctica sets within the data, given that the population there is so small, and there's really no chatter about the continent in general, may finally be making some sense. The data sets now are saying that there's a huge level of Antarctica focus within the deep, as in dark UFO reverse engineering state. The Antarctica sets have always held a very high level of emotional support in spite of the total lack of population within the region, and the data is now saying that this may be due to the unseen level of human activities that are actually occurring around the Antarctica language associations. So this will be a bit complicated, but it needs to be understood that the data is not saying that there are lots of USA Pop deep state people working around underground in Antarctica, but rather that the underground deep state within USA Pop is working diligently on unknown stuff that has underground associations with Antarctica. The recent processing has brought some new supporting sets to USA Pop that are Antarctica focused, and now also have within the racing subset that have cross-links over to the powers that be entity, where the terminating sets are within the fear subset. These sets are suggesting that the ruling elites, Western dollar empire, are somehow in a race driven by fear to accomplish an unknown goal in Antarctica. So I'm just going to stop right now. Who went there recently? John Kerry, Secretary of State, goes to Antarctica. Oh, that's normal. He had to do some diplomatic... Oh, wait a minute, there's no government there. How do you do diplomatic stuff if you're not... Right. Skull and Bones. John Kerry went down there very recently. I bet they found something. I bet he wanted to go check it out himself. And since we had a couple astronauts who I believe were both Masons, let's bring our club member down here and have him take a peek, show him some interesting stuff, since he served us so well. So bring the astronaut. What the hell's an astronaut doing down in Antarctica? Seriously. And then, with John Kerry before him, come on. There is absolutely something going on down there, and we don't know what the hell it is yet. But the sheer number of times the word Antarctica comes up in the December report, I'm going to do it right now, just to give you an idea of how many times the word Antarctica comes up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, and that's it. 60 times the word Antarctica came up in one WebBot report. I think the WebBot report's onto something, okay? Even though it's saying we got some years to come, but you start seeing something leading us to that by next year. I think we're already there. We're not even out of the year yet. Antarctica is all over the place on the alternative websites for sure. Again, John Kerry just went there. That was public information. Astronaut just went there. More public information. He got sick. We had to get him out of there. Got sick. Had to take him back. Okay. This, my friends, is definitely going to be a WebBot hit. It kind of is already. But it's saying we got years to see some of these bigger changes. Having said that, 60 times in the December report, and this thing was released I think on the 1st of December, if I recall, the report, which means he was compiling it in November, doing his interpretation, and then releasing it December 1st. So, this article I read you was actually from today, which is the 12th. Not the 1st. That was almost 2 weeks ago, right? So, anyways, I think we got a hit here, and I wanted to share it with you. Take care.